fits all. Lies they tell. Have they seen these hips, my forehead? Have they seen my experiences, these scars? Have they seen this excellence, my abilities? Have they seen me? Thank you for seeing me this evening. My name is Maurianna Adams. I'm a woman of color, bringing glory and a wee bit of gloom, and I approve this message. This message is for you. So like many of you, I am a devoted public servant. I've had peaks and valleys. I've given much and sacrificed even more. I have made mistakes. And after a near decade in this field, I realized that shit gets real, y'all. It gets real. It's complicated. It requires much more than we know. There are multifaceted, interactive effects, both personal and environmental, on human behavior. Every day we're tugging and struggling and challenging such. And this means that we have to get creative. And we're overwhelmed by it, reasonably so, right? Because we no longer can have either or ideologies, approaches, or implement simplistic programs that ignore this complex interplay. But lack of access, resources, funding, at times it's hard to see the bigger picture. But we have to think big, be global citizens and resident advocates that are informed by community, but also allow community to own space and programming. So community-centered approach. It acknowledges the unique ecosystem embedded within each system and community. Individuals, programs, policies, you name it. You know that they say that those closely impacted by issues at times are closer to the issue or to the solution. Consciousness. So it's defined as awareness or perception of something by someone. This acknowledges that there are story biases that all of us contribute to, regardless of our race, class, creed. And it requires us to not only be aware of ourselves, but our relation with others. What do you think about yourself, about others, by the groups that you closely identify with? Connectivity. This is defined as the extent or state of being connected or interconnected. This acknowledges that while all of our experiences and our expertise are valuable, at times they're limited. So it requires us to both build and deconstruct certain relationships. Who within your community gets to define the problem, select the outcomes, who is most impacted, and who is most involved in the decision-making process. Culture, arts, and other forms of human intellectual achievement that's regarded collectively. This acknowledges that DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, is much more than a mixture of people, but it also examines process and proximity. This requires us to look at and consider careful position. Where am I positioned? Where is my organization or institution positioned? Where is change best fit to happen within my community? The next one, critique, which is a detailed analysis or assessment of something. This says that yes, evidence-informed and evidence-based programs are valuable, but they're the floor, not the ceiling. This requires us to examine our practices, our protocol, our procedures, our policies. Simply put, to pause and ask why. And then the next one, creativity, is the use of our imagination. It's the use of original ideas. This acknowledges that with obstacles arise opportunity, with challenges it births creators. So this requires forward thinking. How can we innovate our tools, our techniques? How can we be the change that we want to see, but create space for others to be the change they need to be? Public service is both a science and an art. It requires logic. It also requires creativity, and of course, from time to time, the tips will indeed scale or tip. To reimagine, it means to reassess, to rethink things, to know that change is possible and change is made, and it requires you, an agent of change, which requires much more than competence, but courageousness and community-centered approaches and principles. We need to build upon the resiliency, the dedication, the partnership that's already evident in each community. Because liberation is the freedom from limits on thoughts and behavior. My name is Maurianna Adams. I'm a woman of color bringing magic through movement, and I approve this